Woodworking, particularly the process of sawing timber to craft tables and chairs, is one of humanity's oldest artisanal trades. It is not merely a manual labor job but an art form that demands a fusion of skilled craftsmanship, creativity, and a deep passion for wood as a material. From rough logs harvested deep within forests, woodworkers transform them into durable, refined furniture sets that bring both utility and beauty to living spaces. This journey is far from simple. It encompasses numerous intricate stages requiring meticulous attention to detail and profound knowledge of both technique and material. Everything starts with the selection of wood, a critical step that determines the quality of the final product. A woodworker must possess a keen eye to assess each raw log. They need to understand the properties of different wood types. Oak, with its hardness and beautiful grain, is ideal for classic furniture. Pine, lightweight and easy to work with, suits modern designs. Teak or rosewood, durable and resistant to termites, perfect for premium pieces. Or peach wood, with its warm tones, popular in household furniture. Depending on the intended use and the client's requirements, the woodworker chooses the most suitable type. Once selected, the raw wood is sawn into manageable pieces. This can be done manually with traditional saws or with modern machinery, depending on the conditions and scale of production. The logs are cut into planks or beams of preliminary sizes tailored to the components of the furniture, such as tabletops, chair legs, crossbars, or backrests. This is the first step in transforming large, unwieldy logs into smaller, workable pieces ready for further processing. With the wood sawn, the woodworker begins the rough processing stage, a phase requiring high precision and care. The planks are smoothed with hand planes or machine planers to remove the rugged outer layer, natural cracks, knots, or other imperfections. The goal is to create smooth, uniform surfaces and exact dimensions according to the design. For instance, to craft a chair, the legs must be cut squarely, the backrest shaped with a slight curve for comfort, and the tabletop made flat and thick enough to bear weight. This stage involves a variety of tools, from saws, chisels, and planes to rulers and pencils for marking. The woodworker must also understand the grain direction to avoid splitting or weakening the wood during processing. A skilled artisan not only works efficiently but ensures every piece meets the required standards, preparing them for assembly. Once the components are roughly processed, the design and assembly phase begins. This is when the furniture starts to take shape. Woodworkers typically work from technical drawings or their own creative vision, depending on the commission or their personal style. This stage showcases their dexterity and craftsmanship most vividly. To join the pieces, they employ traditional joinery techniques, methods that require no nails or screws yet guarantee sturdiness. Common joints include mortise and tenon, for perpendicular connections, dovetail joints, resembling a bird's tail, exceptionally strong, or dowel joints, used for attaching table or chair legs. Crafting these joints demands absolute precision. A deviation of even a few millimeters can result in loose fits, compromising the furniture's stability. In some cases, woodworkers may supplement with specialized wood glue or wooden pegs for added strength, though this is done discreetly to preserve the product's natural beauty. Aesthetics are equally critical at this stage. The furniture must not only be sturdy but also proportionate and visually harmonious. For example, table legs should be thick enough to support the top without overwhelming it, while a chair's backrest needs a gentle curve to cradle the sitter's body. These details stem from careful calculation and years of honed experience. Once the furniture set is fully assembled, the finishing process begins, the final step in transforming it from rough to refined. First, the woodworker sands the entire surface with progressively finer grits of sandpaper, eliminating minute scratches, sharp edges, or lingering tool marks. This task requires patience, as even a small oversight can mar the product's appearance. Next, a protective coating is applied. Options include polyurethane varnish, lacquer, oil finishes, or beeswax, depending on the desired look and style. This layer not only guards against moisture and pests but also accentuates the wood's natural color and grain. For instance, oak takes on a warm golden hue with varnish, while rosewood reveals a rich reddish-brown elegance. Some woodworkers may even use staining techniques or lightly char the surface, a method like Shaoshuji Ban, to create unique effects suited to modern interior trends. Before delivery to the client, every furniture set undergoes rigorous inspection. The woodworker tests its stability by gently shaking it, applies weight to assess load-bearing capacity, and examines minute details like joints, tabletop flatness, or chair comfort. Any flaw, be it a tiny scratch or a loose connection, is corrected immediately. This final step reflects the artisan's dedication, ensuring the product is not only beautiful but built to last. The craft of sawing wood to create tables and chairs is more than a trade, it's a creative journey steeped in meaning. From raw, unpolished logs, woodworkers use skillful hands and insightful minds to craft pieces that carry their personal imprint. Each furniture set is not just an object but a story of patience, passion, and respect for nature. In a modern world dominated by machinery, traditional woodworking retains its unique place, a testament to the enduring value of honest labor and timeless artistry.